What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. It is time to give you a recap of Week 6 of the 2024 college football season. Another crazy weekend of college football is completed, and another college football season that might be more crazy than we've ever expected it to be, but going to give you my 5 biggest recaps here, and this is pretty much just based off of what I saw, but it was another chaotic weekend, so let's go ahead and just get right into it. We saw a lot of upsets over the weekend. I'll get to those in just a second, but let's start here from the bottom and work our way to the top. We'll start here with my number 5 recap. Missouri is not a top 10 team. I think that was made pretty clear yesterday. Missouri is not a top 10 team in my opinion. This is my number 5 biggest recap. You look at Missouri coming out of a bye week, they came in 4-0 as one of those undefeated teams in the SEC. They go on the road to play Texas A&M. I knew this was going to be a really tough game for Missouri. I mean, Texas A&M has been pretty good this year. The one loss coming to Notre Dame, but I think Texas A&M just really came out ready to play in this one, and it was not even a close game whatsoever. Missouri, I think just based off of this, they're not a top 10 team in my opinion. This is not a big recap, and it's not a big takeaway, but either way, Missouri just did not play like a top 10 team. And like I said, in the upset alert video and also the game prediction, I did say Missouri, this was their first true road game of the season. They have not been on the road this year, and they haven't played anybody that's on their level. Yeah, Vanderbilt gave them a scare a couple weeks ago. We'll talk about, Vanderbilt just coming up in a little bit. And they also played Boston College, but I don't think that team is on their level either. Texas A&M definitely is a more talented team, just based off of what's happened. Missouri just got out-coached in this game. And Texas A&M just played a pretty good game, so that's all I can really say about this Missouri team. Where do they go from here? Does Missouri, are they still like one of those top contenders? I mean, their schedule sets up well. They don't really have a tough schedule, but they got to play still some of the top teams in the SEC, like, for example, Alabama. I mean, we probably don't want to call Alabama a top team anymore, but either way, Missouri is not a top 10 team, in my opinion. They are my number 5 biggest recap. Let's move on to number 4. Miami is undefeated, but Clemson is not that far behind. Now, this is not a big takeaway, but there is only one undefeated team left standing in the ACC. We saw Duke go down yesterday to Georgia Tech. That was probably not a big upset, to be honest. I mean, we knew Duke was going to slip up somewhere, and that was against like a pretty solid Georgia Tech team. Miami still has to play them, but how about Miami? Let's talk about their game against Cal. I didn't really watch this game because it was so late, but, California pretty much controlled this entire game, and Miami might be a second-half team. And, this is exactly what they did against Virginia Tech back on September 27th, and Miami just, had to come back from behind and win this game. But, Miami is still undefeated. They're 6-0. They're probably going to be in the top 5 in the rankings just because of how, chaotic this weekend was. But Clemson, they're not far behind. They beat Florida State last night. Florida State with a quarterback change. Clemson didn't obviously play that well. I feel like Miami and Clemson did not play their best games over the weekend. And again, a lot of these teams that, were in the top 10 and also the top 25 did not just play their best games over the weekend. But you look at Miami, they're still undefeated. They're probably the best team in the ACC as of right now, but Clemson, again, is not really that far behind. We'll see how it goes from here. We saw Louisville lose to SMU. SMU, I don't think, is really that far behind, but as of right now, I think it's Miami and Clemson that are probably the front runners in the ACC. But this is my number 4 biggest recap. Miami is undefeated. They escape on the road at California with a 39-38 win. Clemson beats Florida State 29-13. If that was the final score, if I can remember, and Louisville loses to SMU. So I feel like it's down to Miami and Clemson for that top spot in the ACC and also for that ACC championship spot. Moving on to my number 3 biggest recap, the playoff race is wide open. I think that's pretty clear. You look at all the chaos that we had in week number 6. We saw Tennessee lose to Arkansas, which I'll get to in just a moment. We saw USC lose to Minnesota. How about that? Who saw that coming? And then we saw Washington lose to Washington beat Michigan. I mean, this playoff race is pretty much wide open. Now, the Big Ten, I feel like those were the 2 most chaotic moments from yesterday in the conference. You had in the Big Ten, I mean, obviously there wasn't a lot of chaos in the Big 12. most of the Big 12 teams that played over the weekend, they either had a bye week or something like that. But we saw Texas Tech, beat Arizona. So, yeah, the Big 12 definitely is more wide open. And then, of course, the playoff race is now wide open. I feel like anybody can get into the college football playoff now. It's not really just about the top teams. Georgia, it's not really about them. It's not really about Alabama. But, Texas might be the best team in the country right now. But you look at Ohio State, they took care of business against Iowa. I feel like Ohio State was probably the best top 5 team to perform over the weekend. They didn't really have a tough competition, but Iowa's got a pretty good defense, and they scored 35 points on them. So, yeah, that's a really good win there for the Buckeyes. But I feel like anybody at this point can get into the college football playoff. I think the reason why the 12-team playoff is so special, and that's the reason why this season is pretty much wide open. But, yeah, Minnesota beat USC. I don't really know what USC is going to do here for the rest of the way. And then you had Michigan go down to Washington in the rematch from the national championship. So, yeah, both USC and Michigan likely out of the playoff picture. And then you have, of course, out of the Big Ten picture because their schedules just really don't set up well for the rest of the way. But, yeah, this is not a big recap, but I feel like with all the chaos that we've had in the last couple of weeks, I feel like the playoff race is just definitely wide open. So that is my number 3 biggest recap. Let's get into the most important recaps now. Number 2 biggest recap, there is only one undefeated team in the SEC. I think that is really clear. Texas is the only undefeated team in the SEC. We saw Tennessee and Alabama go down yesterday. How about Arkansas beating Tennessee, coming back from behind, actually like 14-3 down. Arkansas just definitely, played their best game. Arkansas definitely needed this win, to be honest. I mean, to kind of get back to where they need to be. They obviously couldn't, really move the football against this Tennessee defense. But I was really impressed with Arkansas. They were definitely so impressed in that second half. But, if they just continue this momentum, they're going to definitely do a lot of bigger things. But yeah, Tennessee and Alabama, they go down yesterday, the 2 undefeated teams, and now we got only one undefeated team, and that's Texas. But Texas could lose this weekend. They could lose to Oklahoma. Can they, stay undefeated? This SEC race is definitely wide open. There's definitely a lot of chaos in the SEC, in my opinion. So that is my number 2 biggest recap. I just wanted to, bring this up. There's only one undefeated team left in the SEC. And we stay in the SEC here with my number 1 biggest recap. And that is Vanderbilt makes history. I mean, who saw this coming? Vanderbilt upsetting number 1 Alabama. I don't think I saw this coming, to be honest. This is one of the biggest upsets that I've been doing this channel for the last couple years. Vanderbilt, they just continue to prove us wrong. A couple weeks ago, they really were competitive against, Missouri. They could have had an opportunity to win that game, but, they come in against Alabama. Alabama definitely overlooked Vanderbilt, in my opinion. They just did not look like the same Alabama team that we saw against Georgia. And I think the defense probably has some problems. The defense might not be as good as we think it's going to be. And the offense, Alabama's offense played pretty well, but, they turned the ball over early in this ball game. I feel like that kind of changed the difference. Vanderbilt just, really turned the ball over on Alabama. Alabama just really made a lot of mistakes in this game, and Vanderbilt just makes history. And this is the second time I've talked about Vanderbilt in my recap videos. Back in week 1, I did say Vanderbilt proves everyone wrong. Now they make history. They were 0-60 against, top 5 teams, and they were now 1-60. So yeah, Vanderbilt beats Alabama here, 40-35. This was the biggest upset, in my opinion, over the weekend, and also the biggest upset in college football history. So yeah, Alabama, where do they go from here? They still got a tough schedule the rest of the way. They got to still play Tennessee on the schedule. That game will be on the road, which I think it's a winnable game because Tennessee lost over the weekend. And then how about, the rest of the way for Alabama? They still got to play LSU. That is definitely going to be a tough one. That game is on the road. They got to play Tennessee and LSU on the road, and plus Oklahoma on the road. So yeah, things might get a little bit brutal for Alabama. They might go 8-4, maybe 9-3 still, but you look at Vanderbilt, can they make it to a bowl game? I mean, this game right here kind of changed the program history for the Condors. So yeah, Vanderbilt here makes history. That is my number 1 biggest recap. So those are my 5 biggest recaps here from Week 6. Not a lot of big recaps, but this was another chaotic weekend of college football for 2024. We'll have my updated top 25 coming up for you tomorrow, so stay tuned for that video. But those are my 5 biggest recaps. Let me guys know what you think about these recaps, and also give me your thoughts about Week 6 of college football 2024 down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.